I froze in shock the moment I saw the words, "Go back where you came from," dripping in blood-red paint across the hood of my freshly waxed Rolls-Royce. My breath caught in my throat. My chest tightened. And for a moment, I couldn't move. That car represented everything I had worked for, everything I had sacrificed for. But in the eyes of Barbara Jenkins, the powerful HOA president of Maple Ridge Estates, it was a threat, not because of the car itself, but because I, a 21-year-old who looked nothing like her version of success, dared to own it. She didn't just vandalize a car. She sent a message. My name's Julian Tran. I'm the son of Vietnamese immigrants who arrived in America with little more than their determination. My parents cleaned offices and drove delivery trucks, working double shifts just to get by. Growing up, I watched them struggle, never complain, and always tell me that if I worked hard enough, I could have a better life. And I believed them. I started coding in high school, launched a software app in college, and sold my startup to a major tech firm for $27 million just after my 21st birthday. I bought my dream home in Maple Ridge Estates and treated myself to a midnight sapphire Rolls-Royce Ghost. It was my first real splurge. I'd lived on ramen for years, barely slept, and poured my soul into building something from nothing. That car, to me, was a celebration of survival. The day I moved in, a neighbor named George welcomed me with a bottle of wine and a story about his time as an electrical engineer. I felt at home, but that feeling didn't last. Barbara Jenkins, dressed in a white pantsuit and oversized sunglasses, stared at me like I was some kind of intruder. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just stood there, judging. Later that evening, as I parked my car in the driveway, she marched over. "What exactly are you doing here?" She snapped. I told her I'd just moved in. When I mentioned that I was the homeowner, she laughed. "That's a very expensive vehicle," she said, eyeing the Rolls. "You sure it's yours?" It wasn't just condescending. It was calculated. I knew that tone. I'd heard it all my life. I kept it together, smiled, and responded with a simple, "Yes, ma'am." Within 3 days, I received a violation notice for parking the car in my driveway. According to Barbara, it disrupted the neighborhood's aesthetic. Never mind the fact that my neighbor 2 doors down had a bright yellow Lamborghini parked outside every day. It wasn't about the car. It was about me. Then came the other violations. My trash cans weren't aligned properly. My window curtains were too dark. My grass was slightly overgrown. I hired the same landscaping company that serviced Barbara's yard. Yet somehow mine was the problem. I wasn't going to be intimidated. I documented everything. I installed security cameras, backed up every video, photographed my yard daily, and logged each violation with timestamps. That's when I met Marcus Bell, a retired attorney and one of the few black residents on the HOA board. He invited me over for coffee one day and cut right to the chase. "She's done this before," he said. "You're not the first she's targeted because you don't look like the rest of the neighborhood." He introduced me to Clara Mitchell, a former Navy officer and single mom who'd also faced Barbara's wrath for her kids playing outside. Together, we formed an alliance and a plan. The situation escalated after I hosted a small barbecue for some college friends. Barbara showed up with her phone out, recording us like we were criminals. "Too many cars. Noise violations," she said. There were 5 of us, and the music wasn't even loud. My friends left early, uncomfortable. Barbara stood on the sidewalk, taking pictures of their license plates. That night, I overheard her whispering to another neighbor, saying I must be involved in something shady to afford the car. She never said the words explicitly, but she didn't need to. "Young people like that. You know the type," she said. I filed a complaint with the city and sent my evidence to Marcus. We reached out to a housing discrimination attorney and began laying the groundwork for legal action. But Barbara wasn't done. She called the police. Twice. Claimed my Rolls-Royce was stolen. Officers showed up at my door. I calmly handed them the paperwork and even showed them footage of Barbara herself trespassing and adjusting my cameras. One officer, Officer Daniels, told me privately, "You're not the only one we've heard complaints about her from. Just keep everything documented." That night, She keyed my car and spray painted that racist message. What she didn't know was that I had added a new camera one she hadn't noticed. It captured everything: her face, her words, her actions. I forwarded the footage to my lawyer and the police. Daniels called me personally. "We're opening a formal investigation. We may be filing hate crime charges." The next day, Barbara doubled down. She scheduled an emergency HOA meeting to vote on a new regulation: no luxury vehicles in driveways. It was a thinly veiled attempt to force me out. What she didn't expect was that we'd show up with backup. Marcus brought printed evidence. Clara spoke about her experiences, and I connected my laptop to the projector. I played the footage: Barbara scratching my car and muttering about how I didn't belong. The room went silent. Then I said, 10 years ago, a woman named Barbara Jenkins tried to swindle my parents out of their land, offering a fraction of its value. She said, "People like you don't understand the market." That was you, Barbara. I was 11, and I never forgot. The crowd gasped. She denied it, called me a liar. That's when Marcus pulled out public real estate filings and complaints from other minority homeowners. Her pattern was undeniable. Officer Daniels entered the room. Right on cue. "Barbara Jenkins, you are being placed under arrest for vandalism, filing a false police report, and harassment, due to the nature of the language used during the incident. We are also recommending hate crime charges." Barbara's mask dropped. She screamed, "This is my neighborhood. People like him don't belong here." It was over. The community rallied. The HOA vote was postponed. A motion was made to elect Marcus as interim president. It passed unanimously. Barbara's house went up for sale 2 months later. Her real estate license? Revoked. As for me, I stayed. And that Rolls-Royce? It still sits proudly in my driveway. No longer a target, now a statement. And the next time someone sees a young person of color in a luxury car and assumes the worst, I hope they remember this story. Because sometimes, the very thing they use to judge you becomes the tool that brings them down. And sometimes, the sweetest justice comes not from revenge but from refusing to back down.